Hello, this is
Hello.
the behind the scenes of the Rube Goldberg thingy. And before we start, we're going to go through the whole thing. We're going to fly around here and take a look at the scale of everything and like how everything is connected. And while we do that, we're also going to mention two things you need to know about the world if you're going to download it and try it yourself. Each time you start a server, you need to replace this pulse former. It's pulsing too short otherwise. It says so on the sign there. And you also need to place two blocks here. So these block breakers derp. The first time you load the world, the server. What are you doing?
Getting rid of the blocks.
These block breakers, but now I can't see them.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So this is just a sync issue in Buildcraft. So you need to
I
do that.
forgot.
Otherwise these will actually consume things when they're not supposed to. But that's pretty much it. So if you're just here for the world download instructions, then that's that. But if you want to see the behind the scenes, then we should continue. So
Yeah, so if you want to download the world, there's a link in the description. And, well, take a look at the signs around the world, because they do explain some fairly important things. Basically, the whole machine is self-resettable, except from the places where you put down signs. That's stuff like turtles that could run out of fuel, or items that don't get restocked, or, whatever.
yeah, but those things are usually going for many rounds anyways. It's just that they might run out eventually. Uh,
Yes.
for instance, turtles have a lot of power, but they don't have infinite power.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, go ahead and play with it.
And as you just saw in the chat there, it's always daytime. We just have a command block setting
Yeah,
everything
we've
up.
set up a little command block with a Project Red timer.
Yep.
That sets it to 4,000, which is just before noon every 2 minutes. So
Yeah.
the sun stays right around noon all the time.
And that's pretty much the bounds of the whole thing. So we're in not a too large area, but we're still moving around quite a lot. So we have some compact areas. This area in the start and this here with the milk and everything. Those areas are quite compact. We move back and forth in them. Whereas when we move to the mountain and to the beach, we go quite a long way just in a straight line. So we mix that up a bit. But should we start this thing?
Yeah, let's do that.
Press the button.
Um, yeah, but maybe you should relog first
Why?
because of the pipe.
It doesn't matter. It's just a graphical glitch, anyways.
Oh, it's up to you, but I would relog.
Yeah.
Just cut out this part.
No, it's fine.
Okay. All right, so let's begin.
Yep.
Here we go.
Yep. So we get a uranium like so. It goes into the hopper, which will trigger this turtle. So the uranium itself goes up here, but then the turtle actually triggers the dropper. So the uranium goes here and will hit that pressure plate, which will move out the sand, which will give a redstone signal, which will turn this drawbridge off, which will give us liquid redstone, which will trigger this cart dispenser, making that cart go off.
And then the card goes down here to the detector, which triggers the state cell, which just keeps this, gives sun to this low voltage solar array for a few seconds. That'll turn on the electrical engine, starting to pump, and that will then fill up this tank. Now this tank, we have a gate set up here that detects when the tank is full, so that'll trigger, and then that'll trigger a part here that like empties the tank and resets and all that. But yeah, so when that's full, that'll place a block over here, and the redstone signal across will be able to go through. And that'll then reset it with the train smasher, and it'll give the turtle its signal to put the uranium back on this conveyor belt.
So this cart is just going around in circles, but as soon as it picks up the uranium, it can turn to the left instead, because it's checking for an empty storage, and now the storage is not empty anymore. The cart will go here and send these pulses. Each pulse will put 3 iron ores in the smeltery, like that, more to that later, and then we will trigger this detector here, and we will get a zombie. Oops, we got a zombie with armor, but that doesn't really matter. It might break if we get a baby zombie. I don't know how often that happens. We've had it happen once, and then the zombie is too fast, so it will like reach Steve here. It won't break the machinery. It won't just reset properly because Steve will die. So
Don't kill Steve.
no. But yeah, the Rube Goldberg will still work. But yeah, then you have to reset it manually. So now the zombie will just get here, and all of these like piston things here are controlled by latches that are being reset by this wireless transmitter. So everything will go back to as it were. Zombie goes down there, an iron ingot is shot here, which is actually picked up by this cart, and it also triggers this river here, the river of it's actually of blood. And then we have a boat here going there. It's getting crushed and triggers this bridge here, and the cart can go past like so. It actually picks up an extra rail there. It's not terrible, but now it will still it will have one rail too many.
But we solved that later. So
yeah.
Because of everything is self-resetting, that works too. Anyway, we have the 9 iron ore over here in the smeltery that we dumped in just before, and that'll give us 18 iron ingots, which means we can make 2 blocks using this casting basin. And thanks to all of the autonomous actors and terrain smashers here, they'll sort of get moved from one place to another until at the end it's over here and it gets placed down under this block breaker. And the second item will also get placed here, and I'll push it over here. And the redstone signal from this torch can reach the, what is it called, like an advanced detector rail?
Yeah, that was
under the Steve Cart's cart, and that'll let it move on. And then when that has happened, well, we have this cart continuing up there, and we have 2 iron blocks standing there. And as you can see, we have the sign here, as we talked about just before. When the server restarts, these 2 block breakers will actually break the first block that's put under them, even though they're getting the redstone signal.
So these redstone signals are just suppressing the blocks,
Yeah.
the block breaker from working at the start, because you need a pulse, not a continuous signal. So.
Right. So first iron block comes in under, just gets pushed over under the first block breaker. Doesn't do much interesting quite yet, but the other one is on its way. And there we go. That gets done. The timing is actually a little bit interesting, but I don't know what we did there.
Yeah.
Thermal expansion block breakers seem to be working a little bit weirdly, but whatever. Okay, so that triggers that cart. It goes up here, stops on the next detector, and it also triggers this regular minecart over here. It'll just go down and turn off the pulse for the block breakers, which, well, lets them break. Then it goes back up, triggers the Steve's cart, and that goes off in that direction. In the meantime, the 2 blocks over here get put into the item loader and into this cart, which also goes up here. And that dumps them in this chest, and we have a little bit of a logistics pipe system here that will break them down into iron ingots, and then 9 of them just get put over in the cargo manager so that the Steve's cart will get them, and the other 9 are used for crafting tracks. So as an end result of this, we have 32 tracks and 9 iron ingots over in the cargo manager. And then the cart will take that and continue.
Yeah, so currently the cart will only bounce back and forth. Because the cart actually got an extra track from the bridge there, it will actually put an extra track here. That might happen at times, but that doesn't matter, it won't break the system. But for now the cart will just wait for more tracks, because obviously this piece of track wasn't enough to reach all the way there, so we need those 32 tracks. Well, actually we just need 31 of them. So now the cart picks them all up, and as you can see it gets them there from the cargo manager, 32 there, even though we won't need the final one. When everything is being reset, that final track will be removed until the next run, so we will only have 3 tracks next time anyway, so we won't get an extra one, so it's fine. So the cart will go over in this direction here, and at the moment we can take a look at this server. So this is a server from Factorization. It will simply loop around here, doing, well, basically nothing. It will just loop here, waiting for the cart. So the cart will drop out its item, which will be 1 uranium and 10 iron ingots. The uranium from the start, 9 iron ingots from the block, and then 1 iron ingot from the item cannon, because the cart picked that up. So now the server here will pick up the uranium, look at that, and it will drop it there. This will be detected, so that will place it on the rail, so the server can go here. Here we will give it a bunch of commands. These commands will allow it to pick up 10 items rather than just 1. So that will pick up all the iron. And then the server will put those iron ingots in there, and that will trigger this again, and they will go up there. Now we have all the items in here soon, there you go. And the server will go and pick those up again. Everything here is getting reset, as it were, because the whole machinery is resettable. Well, self-resettable. Now it has all the items, look in the chest, nothing there, and it will go away in this direction here, to this chest here, to the turtle, and it will drop those items off.
Yeah, and that turtle will just drop 9 iron into the first metal former, 1 into the second, and a uranium into the canning machine over here. And those machines just make the first 9 iron into 36 high voltage cables, and the second metal former, the third metal former, and the canning machine together take that 1 iron, craft into an iron plate, and then an empty fuel rod that gets canned, and we have a uranium fuel rod. So in the end, we just have all those items coming out of here, just using a little bit of magic from the portals to make it look nifty. But that's really all that happens here. We do a little bit of crafting. And then those get portaled out over here. We have the open blocks fans that sort of blows everything in this direction. So it basically works like a conveyor belt. And then we come down here, where we have actual conveyor belts.
Yeah.
And yeah, this dropper hopper setup just uses some Project Red stuff to count the amount of items that go through this dropper, so that we don't activate our elevator further down before we actually have all of the items. So this thing just counts to 37, and then when it's at 37, it outputs a signal.
36 cables and the fuel rod.
Yeah, so all the cables and fuel rods just get pushed over here on this block, which is an elevator, together with some vanilla sticky pistons, normal pistons, and a bunch of Project Red stuff. I guess you could make this in vanilla if you made it big enough, but yeah.
It might be a bit tricky to get a redstone to the correct levels, but it should be possible.
It might be possible, but yeah, basically, point is, we're not using anything really fancy. I mean, we're just doing some redstone stuff here, which triggers the pistons in a correct order, which, well, makes that block into an elevator because it gets pushed up.
36.
So there we have all the stuff.
Yep.
And that'll land over on this block, and a few seconds later, the pistons will alternate, pushing that block up one block at a time until it reaches the top up here, just like that. There's some visual glitches sometimes that make it look like the atoms drop off, but they do stay on the block. They make it all the way up.
And there you go, and that is detected by this little golem, and it will pick up some cables there. It will bring them all over here, so this is where it waited from the start, but well, when we saw it first, it was down here because it can actually sense the items before the elevator is in its very upper state, so it can, well, start a bit earlier, I guess. Well, then this golem will detect that there are items in that chest, and it will bring them up to this chest. So it's basically a chain of Thaumcraft golems picking up all the items and bringing them up here. This golem here will place some of the cables, or well, actually all the cables in here. So they are brought up here, so this golem can place them. So if you use the correct core, you just use the one that allows the golem to use items, and then we have told it to use them at these specific locations. You just use the specific golem bell, if it's golem master bell or whatever it's called. However, the golem bell thingy, and you just tell it where it should put those, and then it will do that. So it basically connects this whole thing here from the nuclear reactor in there to this bat box here with all the cables it receives. But obviously we don't just have cables, we have one fuel rod as well, and that should be brought by this golem into the nuclear reactor like that. So now we will have that there. Obviously we don't generate a lot of power, but it's totally safe, so we won't endanger, well, ourselves nor the golems. So this golem will soon finish up, and there we go. So now we'll get power, not a lot. We have a long cable and not a lot power generated in the first place, but that will start increasing this EU well, part of the replicator, which is the new way of producing items with UU, because these days UU is a fluid, so we need power and UU for that. So we're generating coal. We want 2 pieces in total, and those will be put in the chest, which will be pulled out up here. So it's a very short link with the ender chest like that. So we should soon get the first one. Yeah, a bit more. An interesting thing with this is actually it's going to get all the power before it's getting most of the UU. So it has 4% of the UU, or well, 5 now. But as soon as it gets 100% of EU, it will just very quickly fill up the rest. Um, like that. So now it starts to fill up very quickly. I don't know why it does that. That's just how it is. So when we get the power, it's going to fill up the UU. When that reaches 100%, we'll get a piece of coal and we'll start making the second piece of coal. Like that. So now we have a piece of coal going into the chest there. If we hurry up, we will see that going out, and that is going to put in one dropper. It's actually counted there, so now we know we have one of them and we're waiting for the other. This is obviously a part that takes a bit of time, so in the main video that part has been cut out, so we just see the coal getting pumped out. You don't actually have to wait for them. A thing we can cover while we're waiting is in the ceiling here we can actually see a turtle here, so that's going to reset all these cables afterwards. So it's basically just moving down and removing them. Nothing special there, right?
Yeah, just annoyingly written code.
Yeah.
There's really nothing smart about the turtle. I've just coded in the commands to go forward and turn and all that stuff like it should.
Yeah.
But it does help us to reset the machine, and that is awesome because it means that we can, run it another time without having to do anything.
Yeah, so it's basically this transmitter up there. So when we receive the second piece of coal, the turtle will start. Now I forgot to check how much power we had in this thing. Right, so we have full power. It's filling up the last bit of UU there. And that should give us a coal any second. There you go. You can see that in the pipes. It will move up here. It will trigger that, which will reset the thing and also put the coals down like that. So one coal on each belt. And if we take a look here, we can see the turtle doing its job over in that direction. So now we can see the coal coming along on these belts here. They will just move about a bit for no apparent reason, but it's a Rube Goldberg device after all. And then they will move up this weird belt over here. So they will just loop around like so. 2 pieces there, and then they will be put in this chest, which will give us a redstone signal, which will allow this server to go. So we have a trap command here. A trap command basically stops the server. So you couldn't see the redstone signal here because there's some bugs there with the comparator against the red ally wires, but there is a signal there. It's just not visible on the clients. And now it will move up here to give this machinery its 2 pieces of coal.
Yeah, and trigger this redstone signal, which drops down a cart. Now we get the 2 pieces of coal and the steam dynamo. Steam dynamo powers our MFR farm up here, especially the fertilizer, and that makes everything go really fast. So after the harvester gets 3 pieces of wheat, just like that, those get dropped in the cart. Everything else gets void piped, and the farm gets stopped, and the cart flies off very, very, very high and very far. Eventually drops down on a rail over here in the desert, and it goes into a bit of quicksand. That quicksand is really just there for us to be able to catch up. But then when it falls through there, it'll drop its free wheat and run into its death. And now these free wheat just get, they flow down some water, and down here to do some other stuff.
Yeah, this faith place here, so there's nothing really much to this water. It's just getting them here, which will start bouncing. And even though it might seem like an unreliable way of transportation, these faith plates are very reliable. Other things that you might think are reliable are probably less reliable than these guys. So it will just bounce over there, then over there, back, and then go to the machinery over in that direction. Unfortunately, you can't really see the wheat unless you're close enough, so it's tricky to see here, but it bounces all the way over and into these hoppers. So now we can see the wheat sitting over there. This is another server. It just goes around in circles, or in a square, and what it will do is try to pick up some items from that chest, which is actually succeeding with now. So it has 1 wheat with it. It will put that wheat in here, which will trigger that rail here to be broken, which will allow it to take another path. Obviously it has no wheat now, but it will pick up that wheat again, which will remove the redstone signal here, and that will be replaced like so. Now it will go into here and just loop about a bit before it ends up over in this direction, which will trigger a redstone signal like that.
And we use that redstone signal with these chronotypers to move our beautiful cow Gertrude into the other pen here, where the harvester Rancher, yeah, Rancher milks it,
Yeah.
and the milk goes up there, and well, it also uses these gates to reset this, which will basically deactivate this chronotyper and
Yeah.
activate the other chronotyper, which moves the cow back. So we only get 1 bucket of milk, and we make sure of that.
Well,
And
not
then
one
that,
bucket, but 1 bucket worth of milk.
wow, yes, we get 100 millibuckets of milk. And then that gets dropped into this railcraft cart, which goes over on to this tank, just because we can, because it really just gets pumped into the tank and then directly out of the tank over into the fluid transposer. And that fluid transposer has an infinite stock of florbs, so it'll fill one of them up with milk, and put it in this chest, the item cannon fires it, it goes through a bunch of magic mirrors from Farmcraft, just because it looks cool. And then the last magic mirror, we'll put it up here in a hopper, which we'll put in this autonomous activator, which will shoot off the florb and should drop a source block, because that's how florbs work. And the pump will pick that up, put it in the bottler, put it in a bucket, and then drop it out through the dropper. And then that way we have a bucket of milk.
Yeah, so with 1 wheat, we got a bucket of milk as well. This server will pick that up, so now we have 1 wheat and 1 bucket of milk, and that will go over and drop it off here. Here we will use those later on for, well, a cake. So we need 3 each of these, but we of course have 3 wheats here, so we'll have to rerun this part a few more times. So it's basically in the main video you don't really see the whole thing all the times, so you just see it well, throughout the first time, and then we speed it up, or we'll just take short cuts from it the second and third time. But now it will bring the second wheat here, that braking mechanics worked as well, and it will loop around here using these nifty commands to just take a special path, so it moves around like this rather than just in a straight line. A redstone signal, and back to the cow.
Yeah, and we basically do that thing, well, again, the same thing. And this is one of those parts that we sort of cut out in the main video, because, I mean, watching the same thing happen 3 times might not be that very interesting. But we do need 3 buckets of milk. So, yeah, we do the same thing, you know, with moving the cow one way, then the other way, the rancher, the cart, the tank that's there for no apparent reason,
Yeah.
the floor that's got shot through a bunch of magic mirrors,
And then shot out.
yeah, then in the end shot out, and you know, it gets made into a bucket.
Yeah, so when we originally designed this server system, it was like, alright, it will be cool to like transport 1 wheat and then we get a bucket of milk. But then we sort of well, overdid the bucket of milk part. It wasn't just getting a bucket of milk from the cow, it was, as we just described, from the cow to the cart, to the floor, to the activator, well, through the mirrors to the activator, then pumped up, and then to the bucket. So, yeah, it sort of gets a bit slow, and that's why it's cut out, like mentioned multiple times now. So, there we go. It goes up here, and that activates the server again. Like I mentioned before, this is a trap which holds the server until a redstone signal is received. It will go in this direction here, put those out. So now we have 2 pieces of wheat and we have 2 pieces of milk, well, 2 milk buckets there. We will send a redstone signal here, so now we have actually counted to 2, because, well, 2 things have been, well, created, well, 2 milk buckets, and now we'll pick up the final one here. And while we're waiting for the last piece of milk, I can go through a bit quickly how these servers actually work, because there are plenty of people, including me, that don't know about these. Well, I don't know about them now, but before we started this build, I had no clue they actually even existed. So how they work is, when we start, we drop a server here, and here we have set it that we will get 1 item at a time. You can tell it to get multiple items at a time. Remember the iron ingots. Then we move 10. Here is just set the speed, so it goes slow enough to detect this change. Otherwise, it will just move forward and get destroyed. Here we tell it to import things. We want the things there from the chest. Here we tell it like which direction it should point, so it know which chest it should use. What if we had a chest there? Then we would have to tell it to point in another direction. This thing here, the socket signal, will trigger the pickup. Because we had a like item thingy on the server. You can have like an arm and something else, I don't know exactly. So it basically triggers whatever you have on there. And here we tell it to export, because now we picked up the wheat. Then we tell it to rotate properly, so we can drop that off again. If we go up here, we change the speed again. We tell it to import it again, and so on. So basically just tell it, it commands on the rail rather than the actual server. So the server just goes over these commands. And as you can see, we have some other ones here telling it about directions. We can put Boolean value on its stack. And we used that back with the uranium and the iron. So with the stack, so we had a lot of numbers, so we counted to 10, so we could get 10 irons and so on. So you can do some more advanced things than I showed here, but it's definitely a cool system that you can use, even though it might get a bit big if you need too many commands, even though this is just big for the purpose of being big. Right, so now we actually got the final piece of, well, final milk bucket there. In the same way we got the two previous ones, and now we will get the redstone signal here again, and that will trigger this boat due to that counter. The boat will go here and trigger this thing. So now the milk will block the water, and the water used to destroy these torches which went down the hopper there. But now that won't happen, and therefore we'll get a redstone signal which goes over there and drops a bucket, right?
Yep, and that bucket just slowly falls down to water, goes over here to its left, and then triggers this pressure plate, which basically does sort of the same thing with the milk. Well, it also uses milk. So we open this piston, and the milk flows out, and it sort of suppresses the water, so the milk comes out instead. We switch some pistons down here, so when the milk flows down here, it'll go to its right instead, and that'll break this redstone dust here, and well, since the signal is inverted, it will give a signal out this way, which we use to reset the whole thing, but also to trigger these drawbridges over here.
So we have a longer repeater here, 256 ticks. So that's a Project Red repeater. You can set them up to 256 ticks, which will, well, it will take some time here, but that also means that we'll get a fairly long signal, 256 ticks to be precise. That's going to be used for these drawbridges. As you can see, they are just chained together, but we only have 256 ticks, which will mean that these will reset here and go back again, which gives us two pieces of sand, which triggers this little mechanic.
And that opens the door, so our golem can finally walk through, grab an egg, put it in the chest, and then that will again reset the door, so you can't get any more, and that egg will get put in a cart right down here.
And that will trigger the cart, and the cart will go up this elevator, and will drop off that single egg in the dropper, which will go down here in the vacuum hopper, and be put on the belt. Belts are actually inventories, even though, yeah, that might seem a bit weird, but they are, so we can output it like this, and the egg goes there. It went through this hopper, which triggers a signal there, but it also goes to the ingredients over there. This thing here triggers this part, which makes the locomotive go in here, get a ticket, and now I just need a crowbar to see that the ticket makes it go to the bees. So that is actually forcing it to go in this direction here. So if we would have opened that book there, we would have seen that it required a destination of bees in the ticket, which makes this train go in this direction. We'll see to get more tickets later, but yeah, like I said, more to that later.
Alright, so we have our train come over here. We use that to set another RS latch, which will basically stop the Steve's cart we have rolling around here, which breaks all flowers. It's, yeah, right over there.
Yep.
And it will also trigger this autonomous activator, which places down a flower. And now, since there is a flower, the bees can actually produce their stuff. And what we're looking for is 2 pieces of sugar. So when we get 2 pieces of sugar over here in the chest, that'll, trigger the item loader, and the train will be able to move on. It'll also trigger this void pipe setup, meaning that, anything else that gets put in here will just get void pipe, so we don't need that. And then the train, while leaving, will reset the RS latch, which holds this lawnmower here. So this lawnmower will again be allowed to go around, and that'll break any flowers in the area, which will mean that the bees will again stop, since, we don't want the bees to keep doing stuff when we're not here.
And what I was just looking at, this interface, one of the bees just was very slow before it detected the flower, which happens. It's not instant from the flower getting placed down before they actually realize they have a flower. So some bees take more longer time than others. But as we also saw in the end, that bee actually in the end realized there were a flower there, pretty much close to when the flower actually got removed. But That's what you get for being lazy. So the locomotive goes back here, and now we have another ticket. So if we take a look now, we have the cake destination there, which will, after it refills some water and fuel there, it will actually go in this direction over there. And here we have an item unloader for the cart there.
Yeah, and we have a very, very small logistics pipe system that just sends all sugar over to this chest. Now we have some applied logistics that will detect that all these items are actually here now. And that just crafted a cake. So the items disappeared, and a cake appeared over here. And that turtle gets a signal from this gate, and when that cake is there, it'll go over, it'll pick up that cake, and then it'll make it to the other end of this little maze, and it'll drop off its cake. And, well, everything else back there is basically, reset. So that's ready for another run. If we gave it another things for another cake, we would, start again.
Yeah, so this card is just zipping around here. It's trying to pick up the cake. There we go, and that allows it to turn left because we're looking for some cake supplies like so. The card turns in this direction here and will trigger this detector rail here, and that will shoot out some items through the item cannon. And here we're using the mechanic again that the belts are actually inventories, and these light pods here will go in that direction. But speaking of resets, here we can see the cart actually being reset. So everything is being reset back as it used to be able to run it once again. So the lights goes here, the light dust, whatever it's called, goes in there, which will trigger a piece of redstone. So to make a lamp, we need these two things. We need a piece of redstone and also some glass. So hopefully the machine will do that next, and obviously that's exactly what it will do. So the redstone goes into this hopper, which will trigger the counters there. The counter and the timer and the counter actually. So the timer goes like so. The counter makes sure that we get the correct amount like that. It goes up to 6, and then it can be reset to get 6 more. But there we go. So now the items are allowed to move further, and they will all move into this hopper, and that will start some crafting.
Yeah, that'll start our auto workbench here, which will craft that black lamp, and that'll get pulled out here thanks to the buildcraft pipes. Put into the turtle, and the turtle basically detects an inventory change in its inventory. So when something changes, like something gets put into it, that'll trigger, and it'll just sort of come out of its little hole, and then go place the lamp. And you can see we have a little sign here. Like we said before, these signs are placed everywhere where something could potentially break, so be on the lookout for those signs. And if the machine doesn't work while you're running it, you should probably see if something done goofed.
Yeah, so usually those signs are about things that eventually will run out, not like one run or 2 runs, but like 50 runs or something like that, like turtle running out of fuel or whatever. So now we go to lamp, but it's not on. So a redstone signal here resets this counter, which turns this server on. It will pick up things from this created strongbox, infinite redstone, which will be put into the hopper. Once again, using the belts as inventories, they will move down there, now down to the faith plate there actually, and up there and to the hungry chest. So that will just loop around here until the counter reaches 22 again. That will stop it. So we get 22 pieces of redstone put into this hungry chest, which will allow the golem here to place them all. So once again, like we did with the cables, we just told the golems where it should put its items, and that's going to allow it to place the redstone according to this pattern to the lamp. So 22 pieces is required to make it right. And there we go. So that's the whole machinery from start to finish. It runs all on its own, so it's not like just a ton of machines put together. It's actually one whole machine that can run together, but it takes like 30 minutes for the whole thing to run.
Yeah.
But
and yeah, so that's the end of it.
Anything to add?
Anything else? Well, only the fact that there should in the description be put a link to the Reddit thread, because Reddit is better than YouTube comments, I think. So if you have any questions, at least I'm over on Reddit, and I'll look at the YouTube comments too. Yeah. So if any questions, anything, let us know, and we'll try to answer.
Yep.
And the world download, as we mentioned at the beginning, is also in the description.
Yep.
And yeah, that's basically it. Have fun.
Yeah, have fun. Goodbye.